Good day, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to a new channel entitled Contemplating Catholicism. Now, this channel may be for you if you're contemplating becoming a Catholic, if you're contemplating Catholicism in that way. I welcome you because I think there's some things in this particular channel on these YouTube videos that I'm planning on presenting that will be helpful to you because I've gone through a lot with Catholicism and a lot of consternation, a lot of contemplation. Or whether you're a Catholic and you've been one for many years and you are thinking through a lot of the crap that's going on in the church right now with so many voices. There's voices all over the internet and they're about Catholicism. They're everywhere. And everyone has a different opinion about this or that and from different perspectives. So we contemplate those things and we wonder, well, maybe you're contemplating giving up on Catholicism altogether. So maybe you're contemplating going into it, or maybe you're contemplating getting out of it. Been there and done that on both of those particular areas, in both areas. But I want to tell my story because I'm thinking that it would be helpful. God has done many things by His grace in my life, and I'm very thankful to be brought back to the Catholic Church. And I'll tell you more about that as I tell my story. But I was raised a cradle Catholic. We call them cradle Catholics, people that were born into it. You know, when you're baptized, when you're a week old, that was me. It was interesting. I ran into my godmother not long ago, and she's well into her 80s, close to 90 now. And she mentioned that as a godmother, she was like 14 years old and she had to get special permission from the priest to be a godmother because she was so young. But Aunt Helen, God bless you. And I know that you are a vibrant Catholic in many ways and influence many people. As far as I know, you're the only relative left on my mom's side. But again, thank you. But I was baptized as an infant. And my experience early in Catholicism was basically everyone was Catholic. I don't know that I really knew Protestants very much. I may have had some neighborhood children that were not Catholic, but most of the people I knew were Catholic. I went to Catholic schools up and through eighth grade, and my experience was with Catholicism. That was everything. I still have this. This is my catechism that goes back to this goes back to 1964 when I was receiving my first communion, May 3rd, 1964. And I say, well, that's a couple years ago now. But I still look at this catechism some, and I particularly like the prayer at the beginning of it, which says, "Look down on me, good and gentle Jesus, while I kneel here." And then there's the cross right here, and there's the prayer. Make my soul strong in faith, hope, and love. I still use this prayer, still use it to ask the Lord for the same thing. Make my soul strong in faith, hope, and love, because I need it every day. And I know we all do. But my experience as a Catholic, like I said, was good at the beginning. I had a good experience. I was in a Catholic school where many nuns taught at that time. Not many nuns teach in Catholic schools now. But some were good, some were strict, some were, well, I don't know what they were. But I was one of those kids that I would imagine that most teachers were glad when the year was over and I was being promoted because I caused a lot of problems. Um, I'm not proud of that, but that's who I was, and it happened. And I remember going to confession many times as a Catholic, and I usually said the same thing. I would say how long it's been since I said my confession, and then there's a checklist in here toward the end that it talks about some of the sins you may have committed. And there were things like I laughed and talked in church. Yeah, I can check that one off. Or I disobeyed my parents. Yeah, I've done that. I've looked at things I shouldn't look at. Yeah, probably so. I used the Lord's name in vain. Yeah, I did that. And basically, I could check them off every time. I don't know that I had any great spiritual desire as a child, but there were a few times. But moving on, when I got into it was the 1970s, and I was getting a little bit older. I was a teenager. I really didn't want to have anything to do with the church anymore, and I had some other priorities in my life. One was drugs. My brother was into drugs, and a sister was into drugs, and I inherited it. I did the drug scene. I grew my hair long, and it was party, rock and roll, and whatever. The only thing that kind of kept me a little bit on the straight and narrow was the fact that I played football, and I loved the sport, and excelled at it in some ways. So, but it was helpful. It was helpful at that time. But it was about partying. It was about taking advantage of a lot of girls, which I did, unfortunately. And that particular lifestyle um, wore off after a little while. It got old. It was the same old thing. It was the same um routine many times. And again, I was dissatisfied. But I didn't want anything to do with the church anymore. And there was different reasons for that, which I'll go into a little bit. But I sort of chucked church altogether. And during this time, though, I still had some contact through a place that I worked. As a teenager, I worked at a place called Noah's Ark. It was a restaurant that served pizza and subs, and it was partially owned by the Catholic priest in our parish and another lay couple. And I worked there with another buddy of mine, Eric, and we made pizzas. Eric and I, we also did some drugs together. I'm not sure exactly. I know we at least smoked a couple together. And interesting, Eric, if you're listening, Eric went on to become a president in a Lutheran seminary, and God got a hold of his life. But how he did that to both of us at the beginning was we started going to a Bible study. And again, I pretty much had written off Catholicism altogether. But there was still a longing in my heart for some kind of connection with the Lord, but I knew that wasn't there anymore, but my heart longed for something. So we started going to a Bible study, and this was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This particular Bible study was led by a lady who had a son who was also into drugs, so many of us had something in common. And we would go and talk about the end times. And I still think about that lady who opened her home and she gave out some Bibles. And I think the first Bible that I really read much of, and which was true for many Catholics, unfortunately, is we didn't read the Bible regularly. Most people, you went to Mass, and I was also an altar server. I was into church things, but not a lot into things like the Bible. But during that time, I got a copy. I think it was Good News for Modern Men. It's a paraphrase, but I just started reading through that, and particularly through the Gospels. As I read through the Gospels, um, God just kind of opened the Word to my heart, and I came to realize that I could have a more personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And as a result of that, and having the influence of some other Christians in my life, I came into what I believe is a renewed relationship with Christ. I think I had uh, a, a relationship with Him earlier than that. And of course, we as Catholics, we believe that we come into a relationship during our baptism. We receive faith, hope, and love, but it has to be nurtured. And it certainly wasn't nurtured in me. I lost something. Well, whatever it was, it started coming back in a different way this time because I was beginning to associate with the Protestant world in many ways. I still went to Mass every once in a while. I also went to a Catholic charismatic meeting my sister belonged to, and a lot of those folks had a renewed faith, and I appreciated their enthusiasm. But also during this time, I met a lady, I should say, a young teenager at that time when we were both teenagers. That's my present wife of 47 years. Her name is Sandy Ranley, and we began uh, being friends. We went to a couple nursing homes together. She would sing some, and I would preach. And a good thing about nursing homes was that many of them couldn't hear, and it was a good place for me to start preaching a little bit. But during that time, we got to know each other, and I decided I wanted to be more than just friends, so I asked her out. Our first date, we went out to some place, and I think we had orange juice when we went out. That may have been all I could afford at that time. But after that, we went to see a movie at the Adam's Apple, which was a parachurch type ministry where many young people came and they heard music from different people like Nancy Honeytree and Petra and different people that came. But we went there and we saw the movie The Cross and the Switchblade. And after that first date, I'll never forget, we went to her driveway. We took her car because I owned a motorcycle. It was probably cold at that time, so we didn't use my motorcycle. But I remember parking in the driveway of her parents' house, and we had prayer at the end of our date. And during that time, I felt the presence of God, and she felt it too. And it was one of those times, one of those unusual times when God manifests His presence to you in a palatable way, and in a way you can almost feel His presence being there, and we both had the sense that God was right there with us. And I thank the Lord for that because in a way it was to a confirmation to me saying, well, Chris, this is the one I have for you. I don't have to question it now after basically 50 years, after years of dating and engagement and coming together in marriage and knowing her for 50 years. She's my greatest earthly blessing. But God was leading in that time. But I want to go into more detail. I want to go into more detail in the next segment how I was kind of led away from the Catholic Church, and there were different factors involved with that. A bit of that is through some bad experiences with priests in the Catholic Church of that particular parish, and part of it was being someone taking me under his wing and kind of what evangelicals call discipling someone, but also beginning to go to a Bible college. But I'll go into more detail. But God is gracious. And I am so thankful that He brought me back to the church. One of the things that I'll be doing this Sunday night is helping to lead with a team, an OCIA, and an OCIA is the Order of Christian Initiation as Adults, where adults are brought into the church through catechists, working through different issues in the catechism and scripture, and through various rites, and finally through the sacraments given at the Easter Vigil. I'm looking forward to that. Contemplating Catholicism. And again, you may be contemplating it in different ways, and I hope that you can relate to my story as as we share it with you. And I hope to bring in some others as we move in this process. But thank you for being with me today. I'll see you on the other side as I describe how I was led into an evangelical Protestant arena away from Catholicism and some of the factors of that. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you for being with me today.